Hello and welcome to Hitting the Crew. I am your new host, Johnny Jackson, and I am here with the previous host, Jeremy Brener. Jeremy, how you doing, buddy?
It's good, man. We've been talking about this for months now, and the time has finally come.
Yeah, we kind of got sidetracked with the whole Corona thing. I kind of put a damper on the end of your UCF career and a good part of my first year.
Yeah, I feel like the lamb being led to the slaughter right now. That's how this feels, honestly. But if I had to be led to the slaughterhouse, Johnny, I'd only want to be with you. So yeah,
as long as I'm the one doing the slaughtering and not getting killed, I'm fine with that as well. Yeah.
yeah. I'm. Oh yeah, my time is about to come to an end, and yours is just beginning. So I think we know who's not gonna make it after this.
uh, so what are your plans for the coming months?
Honestly, it's just to let life take me where it goes, and that's a lot of what I've done throughout my life so far, and it hasn't done me wrong yet. It led me down some paths that might be a little that might not have been my best particular path, but I do think that everything in my life has kind of led to this moment right here, in a way, in a weird way. Not necessarily this podcast, but just everything in my life so far has kind of led up to this point. So it's a weird time to be 22, just out of school, but you gotta play the hand that you're dealt, man.
Speaking of that hand that you're dealt, what do you think is I guess the biggest or the most influential card that you've been handed this past year?
The past year, mm, um, it's a very good question. Um, I would say probably, it, it's in a way the pandemic has kind of allowed me to let life kind of slow down, which is, as terrible as the pandemic has been to so many people, and how many people have been sick and how many people have lost lives. It's allowed me to really kind of look at my life and reevaluate where I am and figure that out.
So the thing I noticed for me, and I don't know if you felt similar or maybe different, the first I would say month or so after UCF sent us all home right after spring break, it kind of felt like life was on pause.
Yeah, it did, and in some ways it still does feel like that. Um, but what I will say is, you know, what I think, throughout my time in hitting the field, um, I would say probably this last semester, despite it, I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it, but when we went home and we found out we weren't coming back, I was a little bitter. But it's hard to be bitter or to be mad at something that, like, not like Corona is not a person. Like, you can't get mad at a single person for this. It's nobody's fault that this is all happening. Yes, could it have been, you know, treated a little bit differently? Could we have, stopped this a little bit differently? Sure, but it wouldn't have changed much, in my opinion. I think we would still have had the pandemic would have still been here regardless of what people had done. But I think that, excuse me, I think that what we were able to do in the pandemic. I guess my goal, being the EP of hitting the field, was to do as much as we possibly could. And I think this semester, with the help of a lot of people, not just me, but a lot of people, we were able to do as much as we could do. Given all of the circumstances, I'm very pleased and impressed that we were able to do so much, especially with the draft show and with our podcast and everything that we've done. The show that I first came to 3 years ago is a lot different than the show 2 years ago, and then a year ago when I took over as EP. And now, as I hand the show off to Jarrett and company, the show is in better hands than when I got it. So to me, I feel like my job is done, and my job has been accomplished, and I'm very pleased with that now that it's all over in a way.
So it is all over for you in a lot of ways. But let's kind of go back to the beginning of it. So you
Mhm.
joined your what year did you join? You joined your freshman year, correct?
No, okay, so no, I joined my sophomore year because I my first year I was an out of state student. I'm from Houston originally, and I didn't know very many people, so I was in my out of state dorm, and I knew my out of state dorm, but that's all I really knew. And we were so tight freshman year that I really didn't see a need to go and make other friends, and I didn't have any other ins. But I had all my friends, my family right there in my dorm, so I never really left the dorm. But once we all kind of went our separate ways, things started. It allowed me to kind of expand my horizons. But the way I see it is this. Something that I've learned over the past couple of years is whenever paths are so incredibly, the odds of the paths crossing are so incredibly low, but it happens anyway, it's fate. I'm a big believer in fate and things happening for a reason. So it's funny how I joined him in the field because it happened. I learned about it during my freshman year, spring freshman year. I had become a communications major after being a marketing major. And I was thinking about changing to journalism, but it's funny. So I had a friend that lived right above me. Her Diamond and Bree lived above me my freshman year. Diamond and Bree went to Lib one night, and they met Sam. And Sam is from Titusville. So like Sam didn't even go to UCF. She didn't do like we didn't know nothing about Sam. Like Sam, the fact that Sam came into our lives was just kind of random as it is. But Sam has a best friend from Titusville named Brianna Sorensen. And Brianna Sorensen is my first journalism friend. And honestly, out of all the people that I've met at UCF, she's probably the hardest working out of any person that I met through hitting the field. And she's how I got in. I met her. I learned about it about April, my freshman, and she's like, "Come back in the fall. I'll be there." We were the same age, and then I started my journalism courses, and I think I took 4 or 5 courses with Bree, and she graduated. She was in my first nightly class, and she graduated. She brought me in, and without Bree, I wouldn't be at hitting the field. I wouldn't have been near it. So I thank Bree for that every day. And she's doing big things now. She's actually in the NBA bubble right now. She was with Navy Athletics for the past year. She's going to be a household name within 10, 15 years. I'm almost sure of it. She is super hardworking, super talented, and one of the many people that I met through hitting the field. Without Bree, none of this happens. So
You
yeah.
mentioned that Bree was like the most hardworking person you've met at UCF. Do you think any of that rubbed off on you?
In a way, because that nightly class that I had, which we had a lot of hitting the field people in that class. It was Bree Sorensen, me, Nick Santiago, Zach Winnicky. We were all in that. Chris Tran. We were all in that nightly class, and we were really tight. A lot of us were. Erin Harris, love her. We were Tanisha. We were all really close. Um, and they were. I felt like because everyone was about to graduate, and I kind of wasn't. I was still a year behind, but I always felt a need to kind of push myself with them. You get that feeling where the people around you make you better because they push you more. And I felt like I was a little bit behind in that class, so it made me push a little bit harder. And thankfully I had an extra year to kind of work on my craft and sharpen my skills before I would go out into the field. Um, Hitting the field, get it? But it was yeah, Bree kind of motivated me to kind of work harder. Haley Rowland also strong member of that nightly group, and she's out doing big things in Oregon right now. So yeah, just that group was a super strong group. And Hitting the Field was also a super strong group when I came in, and there's so much talent that has walked through Hitting the Field in the past couple of years, and I think it's made me better as a journalist, as a news person, as a person, just everything. It's the best decision I've made in my college career, honestly.
So obviously I didn't see your second year in Hitting the Field, but what were those first 2 years like of being, your sophomore and junior year? What were they like in Hitting the Field?
Yeah. So I will say this. I will say this right now. As much as I've loved my last 2 years, that first year, 2017, 2018, was probably my favorite year, just because it was so new to the process, so fresh. They were the ones that brought me in, welcomed me. And I'll list these people now: Meech, Carl, Chris Davis, Ant, Jimmy Calhoun, Ben Sanders, Kyle Briley was the host at the time. Tati, there was just such. Layla Brinzia was in there. Gabby Brooks. They really welcomed me and they brought me in. Kyle Graham, Mark Davila, they were super important to bringing us in. And that was the class that kind of started it all. A lot of the guys that were at the top of the leadership chain this past year, Troy, Armand, Jarrett, myself, we all started that year. And it was like, it was super, we were super tight. Not to say that the group isn't tight now, but it was those group, like I still talk to a lot of these guys on a daily basis. We have our group chat from 2 years ago that's still active, and it felt like I was part of something special. You know what I mean? Like a lot of
Yeah.
guys here have, like a lot of us have, team sport backgrounds. Like you played baseball, I played soccer. Jarrett played baseball. Like we all have some kind of, Connor played ultimate. Like we all have some sport background to us, a team sport background, and that's kind of what it's like to work on a TV show. And I never thought about any of this working on a TV show kind of stuff before I joined Hitting the Field. But now that I have, I realize it's like where I felt at home when I was at Hitting the Field. So that's kind of where I've slanted my studies and slanted my job prospects is towards TV production and working on TV shows, because you have to be a family and working with that, and that's the kind of person I am. I'm a big people person. I'm a big friends or family kind of deal, and that group was family. 2018's class, and 2019's class also very very tight knit group of people. A lot of important people came on board. I think, well, Charlie came aboard the previous year, but people like Olivia Cilio, I love. Mark and Kyle were heads of the show at the time. Jessica Herman, Ant was a big part of the show last year, and a lot of people came on board, like Kyle Partain, a real good friend of mine now. So many people came on board last year, and it was a good transition year for us, and I got to learn a lot more of the behind the scenes and the real grunt work that it takes to be at the top and put on the show. And it prepared me a lot for the third year, where I was kind of overseeing most of the projects. So it got me to look at the show in a very different point of view, because Kyle and Mark were our TV guys, are more behind the scenes, like aesthetic kind of guys, and it allowed me to kind of look through their vision a little bit to see what they think the show should look like from their perspective, because I only have the journalism background. And when I came into the show, it was still a journalism run show. Meech was the guy, and then before him it was Jeremy Taché, and Jeremy Taché is also, like, none of this would be anything without Jeremy Taché, and without the show, without Jeremy Taché, the show would be nothing. And he, even though I haven't met him very many times in person, he's probably one of my favorite people to walk through Hitting the Field, just because of how, like, I wanted to run the show very much like Jeremy did, or at least I thought he did. And he was a huge part of what he's done, and he's big about pushing it forward, and giving back to the people that are behind you. And I'm big on that as well, and I think I'm big on that because Jeremy was as well. And yeah, there's just so much there's someone there's like I want to see Hitting the Field do well. Like I feel like if you win Johnny Jackson, that means I win in a way. It's a weird. It's like you want the people around you to be successful, and it's hard to get that. It's really hard and it's special because so many people, especially in the news world, are super competitive with each other. And as much as that is important, I'm also a very big competitive person. But I'm also I also want my people to eat. So if I eat, you eat, and if you eat, I eat. That's the rule that I have, at least within myself. And I can't wait to see what the show is going to do in the future because I do believe that has been resonated within the group that is currently there, and I hope that the group that is there will take that message and pay it forward as well.
I mean, I can speak a little bit on my own experience from what's to come in the future. It is a lot more of a collaborative process than I originally thought it would be, honestly. But I'm very happy about that. Like
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, it feels like we are trying to get everyone involved, as many people involved as possible,
It
and
does take a village.
it does 100.
100%.
Because even like the main show, Monday show. I mean, at least for fall semester, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to use the studio at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's it's going to be a challenge, but if all of us come together, I don't see any reason why we can't put on like some of the best content that we've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Keep building what we have. So you came into. I've heard a little bit about the EP process or getting to be the EP. Can you go into a little bit of what that was at like the end of your junior year?
Yeah, so I guess for me, um, it was kind of like I don't even know how it really came up, to be honest. I knew I wasn't going to be the host. I knew by that point, before we were going to pick out hosts for the new season, I had come to the conclusion that I was better as a producer than I was as an on-camera person. Not that I can't do on camera, not that I don't like being on camera or like talking on camera. I've done it many times before on the show. But I really like being in the producer chair, and it's a kind of power that is it's almost addicting because you get to dictate what goes on the show, and you get to dictate how things are portrayed on the show. And when it came to the time to pass the torch a year ago, um, I was I don't know if there was like Kyle and Mark kind of tried to groom me into it as we were going on, and I don't know if it was necessarily like it wasn't like, oh, we're electing Jeremy or Jeremy's running for this, or it was just kind of a natural fit. I don't think there were many people that disagreed with it. If there were, I didn't know any. But I also wanted to make sure that if I was going to be the EP, like to me, most of the time, I didn't really see myself as that. As much as I would, you know, as much as I like would say like if I were talking to people outside of the show, I'd be like, yeah, that's my title. I didn't necessarily want people to see me as that within the group. I wanted people to hopefully see me as just a member of the team. And I think those are the best kind of captains or the best kind of people that see that because at the end of the day, like I'm no more important than you than anyone else. I'm just as important as everyone else. We're all equally on the same level. Yes, I might have more experience in doing all of this, but that doesn't make me more important than the next guy or the next girl. And that's kind of what Meech was like. Meech was very much a team first guy, and same with Kyle and Tati and Mark. They were also very much, this is a team game. We are working together. This is not me over you guys. It's we're just working the ship. And if I needed people on a Monday to help cut highlights, I'd be in there sometimes trying to help out. Or if we were doing set design, I'd be right there doing set design. Or if I was working with graphics, I'd work with graphics. Or you know, that's the job of an EP. An EP, I guess, in name, is the person that's supposed to lead the ship, but also someone that's supposed to work alongside the crew members of the ship, because um, you have that expertise, you have that experience. You should put it to use, and that's what I think. That's what I think the future EP should do. And I know that that's how Jarrett's going to run. I know that's how the future EPs are going to run. And the culture that we've built at HTF is probably the thing that I'm most proud of, because it's something that was started before me, and it's something that has been gratified and will continue hopefully after me. It's a
So,
culture. You have to set the culture. That's really what an EP has to do.
so what culture did you really try and set during your tenure as EP?
It's a family. It's a family. No one, the people that are on screen are just as important as the people off screen. The people that are in the producer chair are just as important as the people not in the producer chair. The people, you work together to create a common goal. And that, I think that's why the show has been successful for as long as it has been, is because people see it's more than a show. And I've seen so many shows that have come and gone since I've started Hitting the Field, and Hitting the Field is really the one that stayed strong, because I think we do value the family aspect of the show, and being part of a crew. And that is a huge part of Hitting the Field, and that's a big reason, honestly, why I want to go into this field. If I don't feel comfortable with the crew, or if I don't feel like the crew is working together as a team or a family, then it's not going to work. But from what I have gauged, that's how the sports industry is for media people, especially in TV. They care for each other, they work together, they're a family, and you want that in a newsroom, because as draining as being a sports media person can be, as grinding as it can be, you need a family there to support you, and that's what Hitting the Field was for me.
And who do you think, especially being the EP, being on top, having to run all of the content and everything, who was the person that really helped you the most?
I mean, in terms of, that's a difficult question, because I don't think there's one person that really stands out. Obviously, Jarrett and I have to have a certain kind of relationship and a certain kind of communication as a host, host to producer, producer to host. And I could tell as we were going through shows, that our communication and our trust with each other, because honestly, being a producer, you have to trust your host, and you have to trust the people around you. And that's something that can be very difficult, especially when you're someone like me who likes to be in control a lot of the time. As a producer, you can be everything in control before you go on air. But when you go on air, you're giving the keys to the car to the host, and the host is there to drive the show. And I could tell as the shows went on that Jarrett and my chemistry would continue to get better and better. Jarrett's hosting would improve as the shows went on. I noticed the differences, and it was nice to watch, and to see where Jarrett's come in the 3 years that I've worked with him. He's come a very long way, and I'm proud of him. Um, I'm proud of a lot of guys that I've seen come through Hitting the Field, where they started and where they are now. It's crazy. But you need to have that. You need to have that faith with your host, as much as you can. But also you need faith in your audio guys. I know we had, I put a lot of faith in Charlie, and I knew Charlie wasn't going to be there in the spring, so I put a lot of faith in you. The directors are also people that you need to have a lot of trust with. Guys like Troy and Connor showed a lot of growth from the time they started producing or started directing to where they ended when we last were in the studio. And yeah, there's so many guys like Armand, another great example. Armand, super quiet guy, but very strong minded, and very he's not going to say a lot, but when he says a lot, you listen. And to see where the Black History Month show has gone from when it started to where it went in 2020, I was very impressed with it. This was a very difficult semester to be the EP. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, with the Kobe with Kobe's death and how to do that, and then Black History Month show and how to incorporate that, and then the lady show that we were finally able to get to our screens. We did that during the pandemic. I'm proud to see where the show is now, and I had a lot of planning to do with that, but executing is the people around me, and wouldn't be there without those kind of people.
So you spoke a lot about how, like, especially this last semester, it was very difficult to be the EP, to be on top. And in leadership, you do have to make a lot of decisions. What do you, if you could go back for the entire year as EP, if there was like one thing that you could change, what do you think that would be?
None.
Nothing.
I wouldn't change a thing because honestly, the moments that were good, and the moments that weren't good, we use those to grow, to become better, and you can't become better without those moments of growth. Um, and honestly, like I've thought about it because look, I can look back at this semester and have so many regrets. I really could, but also there's not much I could honestly do. There's so much that's out of my control, and what I've noticed, because throughout my life I've like there have been times throughout my life when I was a teenager, when I was early in college, that I would be mad, just be angry. But then I realized that I'm getting mad and angry over things that are out of my control, and it's easy to get mad at things that, obviously things that are out of your control are probably going to go against you. But if you can do everything in your power to do the best you can do, then I've done my job. And my goal as EP when I began my goal for the year for Hitting the Field was to do as much as we could with what we had. And I think we did that. We had longer shows, more ability. We had more content, more people joining the show, more roles to fill out. We had, might I add, with Kyle Partain, the short-lived 2 seasons spinoff. We started a podcast. We started 2 podcasts. We started 3 if you count Take Me Out. We we did so much. We had the Black History Month show. I would say it's our best one yet. The Lady Show. We were able to still go live during a pandemic, for crying out loud. Like, we were still able to do that despite all the odds. We still were able to push through, and we were still able to do a draft show despite all the odds against us. Honestly, and I mean, to me, that's successful. If it's not for other people, then that's fine. I really don't care about that opinion, though, because I'm proud of what we did. I'm proud of the people that joined the show for the first time. Proud of the people that stuck with it, that are going to stay with it after I leave. And we have a special group at Hitting the Field. And that's probably what I'm proud of the most.
So, if you could give one episode that you think was maybe your strongest or your favorite in terms of your work on it, which episode from this past season would you say that is?
I would honestly, that's tough because I have a couple. I want to say I really was proud of. I remember there was the episode of right before the national championship, or back in January. I remember that episode and I was like, this is a real worthy episode. And I was so hyped because it was the second episode of the season and we were way ahead of my expectations. I thought this was the kind of stuff we'd be putting together in March or even early April, but we were able to do this in January. That's an episode that I remember sticking out. The episode right after Kobe passed away was a big one. That was, I think, 2 weeks later. The Black History Month episode is probably the one I'm proud of the most because of the impact that it has. But also, I don't say that originally because I think the people that deserve that power. As a white man, I did not want to dictate the show. I did not write the show. I gave that duty to Armand and to Shay and to our Black HTF members, and they did a fantastic job with creating the show, with uh, commenting on the show. Crystal was on that show. I'm proud of what she's done over the past year. China, another person I'm very proud of. Shay, especially. And Armand did a fantastic job. Troy as well. We had so much. It was such a great show. I remember being super proud of that show, and of course the draft show. Without Jarrett, that show would not have happened. Jarrett is a huge part of why that show was able to happen, with the live streams and the extra work he put behind it. And I can't take, like, that's the thing, is those are the episodes I'm proud of the most, but also I I can't take all the credit because I would be nothing without the people around me that are helping that out. And that's the thing, is like, I think that in some ways those guys like Armand, like Jarrett, have the same mindset as I do, where if I eat, you eat. And if Jarrett's like, well, if I do this, Jeremy's gonna eat as well. And yeah, that draft show, the fact that we were able to do the draft show as seamlessly as we were able to do, given all the circumstances, I was very impressed with. That's just a couple of answers for you, Johnny.
So I know that we had some hurdles to jump over as the year went on. But what were some of the biggest problems that you encountered, and how were you able to kind of work with the people around you to solve those problems?
Yeah, obviously every show isn't going to be perfect. I know we had, there were some instances where things did not go as perfectly as it was planned, and that happens as a show. That happens in the real world. But it's something that you have to learn from, and you have to make sure it doesn't happen again. I don't know. I don't want to say like any one specific moment, because to be honest, it's not really coming to me right now. But they're definitely, I would look back at some shows and I'd say, I wish this was better. I wish that was better. I wish this person's hands were in a different spot on camera. I'd wish, but I mean, those are small little details that, and that's why we go over them in production meetings and whatnot. That's something that we incorporated this year that we didn't really have in years past. We kind of just said, okay, this is what's on Monday. All right, see you Monday. But it gives us an opportunity to kind of look at the show, and it's like watching film. Like football guys watch film all the time to make sure they get better, and I don't see why we can't do that at Hidden the Field.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think those definitely helped me out. I mean, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I enjoyed learning, I guess, some of the smaller things that maybe I wasn't paying attention to, or I didn't even notice in the grand scheme of things. I think having an eye for that is what separates you from other people, because I think you definitely have a very good eye for noticing the little things, and I think that definitely helped us as a whole.
Mm-hmm. And that comes with experience. That comes with time. Obviously, I know a lot more about the show today than I did 3 years ago. And as you work on shows, you get more experience, and you get a different eye for things to come.
And so you are handing the torch off to Jarrett and company.
Yes.
How do you feel about that? You came into the show with Jarrett, and now you're handing it off as you leave.
I wouldn't want to hand it to anybody else, to be honest. I wouldn't want. I feel like the show is in very good hands with Jarrett. Jarrett's one of the hardest working people that I've seen at Hitting the Field. He's very talented, and I know that he cares about the show as much as anyone. So that's why I feel very good about the show and where it is. And part of, I guess past EPs, like, we kind of joke, like, the goal of our, like, as we're the EP, the goal of the show is to make sure it doesn't die. And I think I've done that, and that's Jarrett's job as well. And Jarrett has that job. For Jarrett's going to be very, very hard, because obviously he's walking into a continued pandemic. You guys might not even have the studio. But the thing is, Jarrett, the moment where I was like fully 1000% gratified in passing the show along with Jarrett was when we did first go off campus. I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought we were just going to do podcasts for the rest of the semester and there would be no draft show and that'd be it. But Jarrett found a way to get live shows, and he found a way to innovate and to be different. And it wasn't, perfect at all, but it didn't need to be. And you get the job done. You have to find a way to innovate. That's the one thing that 2020 has taught all of us is you need to find ways to be flexible, to pivot. And Jarrett has done that, and he knows how to do that. And I couldn't be more comfortable handing it off to Jarrett. And I know he's going to do great things with the show. I know that everyone left is going to do great things with the show. You, Sean, Whitley, Kayla, Lindsay, Manuel, Nick, Robert, all of those guys, Okalo, Cliff, all of those guys. As I haven't sent a lot of love to the current crew, Julia, Connor, Olivia, Alex Tinsley. There's so many people that are still there that are super talented, and that's, to be honest, that to me is totally what's going to make the show run. Is that you have good people there, and can't wait to see what you guys do. And I'm super excited for the future, and I'm just as excited for the future as I am about the past. And even though I won't be a part of it, it's weird because I've tried to, I guess, push this as far as I possibly can because as I said earlier, I do feel a little bit gypped by the pandemic and ending my chapter at UCF a little bit prematurely. So I've kind of tried to do my part in, making making podcasts throughout the summer, give me something to do, to not to try to stay with hitting the field as long as I could. And it's been difficult. I feel like I'm laying my torch down very gently, and I'm landing in very smoothly, and I'm good with that. But I'm also, it doesn't feel like goodbye in a way as well, because hitting the field is always going to be part of my life. It's hard to have something that has created so much impact for you that I'm just gonna forget about it. It's shaped a lot of who I am right now. It's shaped my career in a huge way. And I hope that with hitting the field, what we can do is we can provide that opportunity for people that are at UCF to be part of something special, to learn more about the sports world, because hitting the field is so many things for so many people. There's so many, a lot of guys that, for some people, it might just be a chance to get to be part of a team or be part of a friend group or a family. For other people like me, it's shaped a lot of my future career. And whether, no matter what you do post-grad or, joining the field can be very beneficial for anyone. And I want to provide that opportunity for, that's why I've taken a lot of the young people in, like you, like Kayla, like Julia, those people, because I know what y'all can be, whether it's in TV, whether it's in sports, whether it's out of TV, whether it's out of sports. And I feel very good about the people that are there. And it can be, so that's why I want to provide that opportunity. And I'm always going to send people to hitting the field. I'm always going to advocate for hitting the field. And I hope that we can see this not just at UCF, but I hope that the brand can continue to grow so that we can possibly see these other ideas pop up on other campuses. Because there's nothing like hitting the field than on any college campus in the country, at least that I've seen. If there is anything like hitting the field, please send it my way, because I will be your strongest advocate. So that's what I want to do. Is I want people to have the same or a similar experience with hitting the field that I did. So that to me, it doesn't feel like I'm leaving in a way.
Yeah. And you and Jarrett are similar in a lot of ways, but I think you guys are also very different in a lot of ways in terms of just personality. So how I mean, what do you see Jarrett's leadership style as? Because like we've seen a little bit where we haven't necessarily, or at least I haven't necessarily seen him as um, like the big head of everything. I mean, how do you see that
Oh,
go?
you got to watch your words there, Johnny. You got to make sure you're saying the right things. But no, Jarrett and I have very different personalities, and I think that's what allowed us to work as well as we did. Because there were times where you know I would I'm very vocal, I'm very out there, I'm very extrovert, and Jarrett isn't as much of an extrovert as I am. But that doesn't there's several different ways to lead a group or to lead a crew or to be part of a crew. Um, I think that Jarrett has a good vision for a lot of things, for sets, for uh, producing shows, for just overall. He has a good eye and a good vision, and he's also, I was big on, la di da di da, and I was very out there, but also in a way, like Jarrett, if Jarrett isn't as out there as I am, or as brash, that's a good word, brash. I would say
Yeah.
that I'm more brash than Jarrett. But is that a safe assumption?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. But also, Jarrett on camera is a lot more natural than I am, I would say. So, not that I'm not natural on camera because, but anyway, um, Jarrett is, Jarrett's a good he has a good eye for a lot of things, and he trusts the people around him. And that's one thing that I learned with Jarrett is you have to be more trusting about the other people to get the job done, and it can't always just be you. And I relied a lot on Jarrett for tasks and for jobs, and like I said earlier, I feel like there's no other person that can do the job that I did like Jarrett can. And I feel as comfortable as I possibly can, passing the torch to Jarrett, allowing UCF to or allowing HTF to start this new chapter. Because from what I've heard about you guys and what you're going to do for the future, y'all are going to do big things, and I'm very excited to see what's to come from you guys, and I can't wait. And I'm happy with Jarrett. I'm happy with all of you guys, and I'm proud, and I can't wait to see what y'all are gonna do.
I guess my last question about just the particularly show aspects is was what's like the one thing that you maybe wanted to implement but either weren't sure how or just didn't necessarily work in terms of time or in terms of practicality?
Um,
Or was there anything?
mm, I mean, there were some things, but also you have to you have to trust the people around you and trust their abilities. I mean, I wouldn't say there's one thing that I was like, oh, I wish this was better. Because like for instance, we were taught there were one of the things I'm very happy about that we were able to implement was the ticker, the sidebar ticker, and that was one of the biggest tasks that we had during the year. And Connor worked super hard on it, but Connor would teach me it, and I would learn about it. But I realized there was only so much that the ticker could do. So that's also the thing is if people are working hard and if people are committed to you, then you have to be happy with it. And there's always going to be opportunity for growth. So you can be happy with where you are, but you can also know that you can always do a little bit more. You can always fine tune one or two things about the show, and that was the goal that we have, and I hope that's a goal that continues in the future. Is each week you work on one aspect of the show and you work to amplify it or to make it better. And that was a common goal that we had throughout my entire time at Hitting the Field. And as we've seen the show evolve, that's why, because we've taken small aspects of the show, tried to amplify it, and worked to make it better. And I think the show where it's at in season 10, now going to be season 11 in the fall, is very different than the show in season 1.
I agree 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take it a little more, I guess, a lighter, not necessarily a lighter note, but just a different note. More about your UCF career in general.
Mhm.
Uh, what was like the favorite class that you had, or the favorite thing that you did while at UCF besides hitting the field?
Mm, that's tough. Um, honestly, I mean, that's so weird because with hitting the field, it being in school, it kind of it felt like school in a way. Like Mondays, my first class, I'd go to hitting the field. Then I go to work, or then I go to this. Like it was, I had a very different college experience. I feel like than I thought I would. Where it's not just entirely class based or whatnot. I don't know. It's tough. I enjoyed a lot of what I did during my college career. I worked at the JCC for 2.5 years as a camp counselor and a youth counselor. That was a lot of fun. Grew a lot there. Being part of nightly news was a huge part of my college career. Being part of them for I guess parts of 4 semesters. Um, One very large semester, but I guess in capacity, I was part of nightly news for 4 semesters. That was a big part of my college life, and being part of the out-of-state dorm, that was a big part of my life, and it feels weird that all of that's kind of coming to an end in a way, and it kind of already has. I sit in my apartment that I've lived in for 3 years that I'm moving out of in a week, but it doesn't feel like the end in a way. It feels like, and I never